Oh my god.
Get in this tater sack,
Yeah,
young
come
lady.
over here, get over here, Lord.
Tater
Come
sack.
here, you little son of a bitch. Hello, welcome to Action Lag. We are two recovering screen junkies who decided to make a podcast. We are your hosts. My name is Neil, and to the left of me is my buddy Shane. Say hello, Shane.
Howdy.
How's it going, guys?
So, while you all are listening to this now, it is the first episode, and normally we're going to be uploading one episode a week.
Yeah, we're gonna try to
But
aim for a weekly schedule. We're
right,
gonna bust out 5 of them right off the rip, so you guys got a little
yeah.
catalog to listen to.
So yeah,
Check us out.
at first you guys will see 5 episodes we're uploading all at once, the first 5, which
Oh
will
yeah.
probably come out sometime late October-ish. So we're finally gonna upload all 5. So
Oh
this one's
yeah.
going to be a little bit of an old one. We're recording right now on September 23rd, but we want to do it that way. That way you'll have, a few episodes to binge if you want. That way you get an idea of what we're doing here.
Absolutely. And then we're going to be going to the weekly format. Just keep them pumping out for y'all. So
Right.
be ready. Check us out on our social medias. We have a TikTok. We have a, we're going to be on Spotify. Are we doing Apple or what are we doing here?
Yeah, it's going to be on Apple and Spotify, definitely at first, possibly also YouTube. And starting out, we're just going to be having outlets or like socials. It's going to be like Discord and email. And then after that, we'll move on to we'll make an X or otherwise known as
We're going to
Twitter
be
account,
growing.
stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, this will grow as we grow. So we'll figure out how to get more platforms later on. But right now we're going to be specifically on Spotify or Apple.
Right. But mainly right now, like I said, you guys can just, if you want to shoot us an email to let us know what you think, or if you want to join our Discord, that'll always be available as well.
All right.
And
Sweet.
also, generally, our episodes are going to be about either video games, movies, or TV shows.
Anything that's on the silver screen, baby. We're going to talk entertainment.
We could have 2 video game episodes in a row. We could alternate all 3. Or we could do a mashup, which is what we're doing today. Episode 1 is about Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, and it's like a cat with that's hungry for food.
Feed me.
Feed me. Right, but actually, that sounds it's like a flash bulb from an old school camera back in the day. That's like the flash
Fun
bulb.
fact for anyone who didn't know that it is actually a camera flash bulb going off.
Yeah, right. So, all right. So, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it's an iconic horror film. It's produced by Tobe Hooper, based off of a screenplay that was written by Tobe Hooper and Kim Hinkle.
Some would say it's the first slasher.
Yeah, it definitely is like the grandfather of slashers. A lot of horror movie buffs, especially me myself, I consider this movie like the blueprint of modern slashers. We're talking about like a big hulking killer, doesn't really have a personality, uses like conventional tools, like as in this movie, obviously he uses a chainsaw, but he's wearing a mask, he's quiet.
Yeah,
I mean,
he doesn't necessarily talk. I mean,
he
Leatherface, he might, ooh, but
Yeah.
he doesn't say any words.
He makes some grunts and noises, but he doesn't like speak. But yeah, this is definitely like the framework of what like modern horror slasher villains would be like. And honestly, he's like one of the most iconic slashers of all time.
Right.
Right next to Jason and Freddy.
I would say he's my second favorite after Michael Myers.
I mean, he's my favorite, but the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, in my opinion, is like one of the few perfect films. But I'm a little biased. I really love this movie. But do you want to know how Tobe Hooper like came up with the idea of like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre? It's kind of funny and a little demented.
How's that?
So let's come to the mindset of this like director. He was Christmas shopping. We're going in the Christmas of 1971 or 72. He's out Christmas shopping at the local mall, right? And this is back when like malls were huge. Everybody was going. and it was like insanely
What a
crowded.
great way to think of a
Right?
crazy
Check this
slasher
out.
movie that's
So
never before
he's
been done.
he's Christmas
Christmas
shopping.
time.
Yeah, he's Christmas shopping at a mall, and he's like sick and tired of all these people. He's like all just the place is freaking packed, and he sees a bunch of chainsaws hanging up like in like a power tools section of the mall. And like for some reason, like that idea like sparked right there. It's like some crazy chainsaw wielding maniac showed up. Like how many people would like how much chaos would happen at this mall, and boom, the beginning of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was born. But
Right.
before they got that
Can
iconic
you can you imagine if he would have like fully went through with that idea like exactly like that? Like what if he made the movie about some guy just going into a mall and massacring people with the chainsaws? It'd be so different.
dude, that'd be a totally different movie. Yo, they guess what they were gonna originally name this movie?
What's
They were
that?
gonna name this thing Head Cheese.
I
Head
don't think I
Cheese.
don't think it would have stuck as well.
Yeah, they had a couple different names for it, but eventually a producer was like, "Hey, let's call this thing the Texas Chainsaw Massacre."
Head cheese too.
Yeah,
Who
Head
cut the
Cheese
who
too.
cut the cheese?
This time it's personal.
This time it's Swiss.
Yeah, so the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it stars a list of like newbie like incoming actors. A lot of these people didn't do movies before that. I think only one guy had a movie role before this, and a lot of these people were a bunch of just college students at the University of Texas in the acting programs. But it stars Marilyn Burns, Paul A. Partine, Edwin Neal, and Jim Seedow. And then you got your big, lovable Icelandic teddy bear known as Gunnar Hansen, who plays the iconic Leatherface. Bubba Sawyer, baby.
I mean, really, he's the only one that people remember. Because I mean, you got to remember who played the original Leatherface.
Well,
He
I'd
just
say
used that.
Marilyn Burns. She's been in a couple movies after this. She was in a couple other movie, like horror movies, and like
Oh
some
yeah,
like
definitely
knockoff
some,
slashers.
definitely the old heads. If there's any of those listening, I'm sure they recognize a few more names. But I'm saying
Yeah,
like more of the younger audience, they
yeah,
might only know who Gunnar Hansen. Because I
yeah.
mean,
Gunnar Hansen.
you
Yeah,
got to know who played Leatherface. You know,
yeah. He's the OG for
he's the
sure.
main character. You know.
Right. So this movie, it follows a group of young adults traveling across rural Texas to visit their grandfather's grave and their like local farmhouse. And they end up falling victim to a family of cannibals. Obviously one being Leatherface, and then we have two others that join the family that we'll talk about a little bit later. But yeah, this movie starts off with a hard cut, like a title crawl almost, right? Like that, it has the yellow words that travel from the bottom of the screen upwards, almost kind of similar to like Star Wars, but this came out before Star Wars, right?
Right.
So like who
They might
really
have
thought of it
drawn
first, right?
inspiration from it. Yeah, you might
Yeah,
have drawn inspiration from
Toby
it.
Hooper might have given old George Lucas a couple ideas. You never know.
Of
But
course,
what
George Lucas's was a little bit more upbeat.
Well, I mean, yeah, it had music. This whole movie's like soundtracks is like Toby Hooper in a kitchen banging pots and pans together and shit. It's kind of a wacky soundtrack. But yeah,
Right.
this movie it was really one of the first movies to like claim it was real as well. Like it had a similar marketing strategy
Right.
to like the Blair Witch Project,
It was
right?
like, yeah, it was
This
like
film is
it was
based off of
like,
true events.
yeah, it was feigning a true story, is what it was doing.
Yeah. So basically, it's like saying that this is based off of true events and that the murders never were solved and it's an open case back in
I don't
1970.
think I don't think I've ever told you this, Neil, but actually, when I was a kid, I actually did think Leatherface was a real person because of these
Oh,
movies.
most people do.
Yeah,
Most
like
people do.
I thought this actually happened, or at least
Yeah,
to a
exactly. I
degree,
mean, I think the title sequence works then because that's exactly what they were aiming for. Is like
Right,
this is like a weird, sick recreation of something that actually happened. You know, but
right.
these crimes, they are loosely based off of Ed Gein, the butcher of Plainfield up in like Wisconsin.
Right.
You know,
Very loosely. I mean, it's a lot
like
different, but
basically where what the only thing they really pull from Ed Gein is like all the grave digging and like all the corpses and artwork that he did with
yeah,
like
and using
skins of
yeah,
people.
using their body parts like for decoration. He would like
Yeah,
string their skin over a lampshade, you know.
yeah,
Whereas
absolutely.
Leatherface, he would, you know, create
Wear it.
masks and, you know, they would make decorations out of body parts as well. Like in the original movie, the 1974 one, you see the scene where I believe it's Pam, her character. She goes into that room and they have a bench made out of human bones.
Oh
You know,
yeah, yeah. They have the whole scene. Yeah. So
right?
basically, these kids, like, they start off right. They start off. They go to their grandpa's grave. They heard that their grandpa's grave could possibly have been desecrated, right? Because the first shot in the movie, we start off with a long, like creepy shot of like a bunch of like corpses, like that have been like set up in the artwork or like a statue kind of
Hmm.
style, right? And it slowly pans out, and it's really gross, right? You can really like, it's almost like you can smell the meat that these like corpses are made out of. It's kind of unsettling. But we
It's
pull
crazy that
out,
he was going for PG.
right? Yeah. So this,
That's
believe it
crazy.
or not, this movie isn't as bloody as a lot of people remember it to be. It kind of it tries to hide the blood. And back in
Yeah, when I rewatched it recently, they really actually like hide the kills. Like when he's like cutting that first guy's head off while that chick's up on the meat hook.
oh
You don't
yeah,
actually
they
show him making contact with the guy.
so apparently they did have stuff like that, but this movie would have never been able to be shown in
Right.
theaters. It would have been like an X rating. Originally, they were going to give this movie an X rating. Toby Hooper, on the other hand, he uh he was aiming for a PG, and he thought that it doesn't show much blood. It's all the kills are kind of like left up to the imagination. Really, it doesn't show a lot. It shows a little bit of blood, but not
I
very
mean,
much. I mean,
I would
compared to movies
honestly
like
I would
other
honestly
movies?
say that probably the goriest, bloodiest part, quote unquote, would be whenever they're trying to get the old man to hit her in the head with the hammer, and you actually see, her head bleeding. You know,
Yeah, yeah, definitely
I
at
would
the
say that's
very
the
end of the
bloodiest
movie.
scene in it, and it's not even bad at
I
all.
mean, there are some other shots where, like, the hitchhiker, whenever they pick up that crazy hitchhiker, he cuts into his hand and he cuts the
Right,
other guy. There's, like, a
right.
little bit of blood, but that's nothing, like, ridiculous. I mean, let's talk, like, PG. They probably could have gotten a PG rating. I mean, Jaws
Oh, in
came out, like,
modern
a year
no,
or two later.
modern
Like,
times
oh,
now,
no,
it
never,
would be it
never.
would be PG for sure.
PG-13,
Yeah,
PG-13.
easily.
But that didn't exist back in the 70s. But,
Oh yeah,
like, if we're
it's the first
comparing this
movie
to
of its
other
time. You know.
yeah, if we're comparing this to other movies in, like, the 70s, Jaws got a PG rating, you know? Like, this movie isn't as violent as people remember it, but it's still, like, it still kinda sinks with you. It still feels dirty and gritty. It's almost like a snuff film, but it's not showing a lot, right? It leaves it up
Right.
for the imagination. And geez, dude, these kids, man, they just make wrong decisions after wrong decisions. Like from the moment this movie starts,
I
they
mean,
get it.
people always see like horror movies and they're like, "Oh, I can't believe they did that. Like, why would you go do that?" You know. But even if I hadn't ever watched any slasher movies and like you get that cliche mindset, you're like, "Oh, you never do that in a horror situation." Even
Right
without having watched any horror movies, I still would not have done the things these people.
here, yeah.
Like, they're so stupid.
Tell me, Mister, would you have picked up that hitchhiker on the side of the road? Be honest.
Yeah,
That
that
guy,
that too. Like,
like, I know it was the 70s and it was like the height of the hippie movement. Hey man, it's hot
right? Yeah,
outside. Nobody wants to be out in that heat. I think they say that in the movie, but Jesus, 5
yeah.
seconds of that guy being in the van, you should have been like, yeah, there's something wrong here. We need to get
Yeah,
this guy out of
even
here.
even during the height of the hippie movement and picking up helping people, they're smoking weed.
Yeah, he didn't
Even
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 offer any
even
reason.
yeah, even during the height of that, I mean, the things this man was doing in the van in the first 2 minutes, they'd been kicking him out, bro. Like,
Right? I know, that's insane. Let alone wait until he starts cutting people up
He
in the
was in
van.
that van far too long.
Yeah. So that dude
Far
was
too
played
long.
by Ed. I believe his name is Edwin Neal, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And he
Old
worked very
nubbins.
hard. Like his character, he worked very hard to make portray this character as like having a sadistic and schizophrenic personality. Like he does a really good job like convincing
Right.
people he's crazy.
I mean, that is pretty a good segue into definitely something I want to talk about is the acting.
Oh yeah.
Um, the acting in the movie, I would honestly say Edwin Neal probably does the best acting of
Uh,
any character.
Edwin Neal and Jim Seedow. Seedow is the guy who plays the cook in this movie.
Right, right.
He's the only
Yeah,
other one that actually had like a screen experience. He was in a movie
right.
prior to that.
Yeah, they both definitely acted the best.
Oh
And
yeah,
then you have the people that probably acted the worst, which would probably, in my opinion, be the guy who plays Franklin, which is
Paul.
Paul, yeah, Paul Partain.
Yeah,
He tried to do a good
he
job acting
he
and
does a
method
good
acting.
job of making you really not like his character.
I mean, when she was trying to get the flashlight from him in the movie, he's like,
He just
"No, Sally, no,
no,
no,"
no,
and
don't
then
go
and
out
then
there,
she yeah,
Sally.
and she says she's gonna go without him. Screw it, I don't need the flashlight. And he's like, "Wait, Sally, I'm
Bro,
coming." It's
I feel so
it's
bad
so
for
bad.
that guy, man.
It's bad.
He got the shit into the stick almost every scene he was in. Like the first time you see him, right? They pull over on the side of the road and he's trying to take like they wheel him out of the van and onto the side of the road and they give him a can to piss in cuz he's trying to piss on the side of the road. Then suddenly he gets like pushed down this hill, piss goes flying everywhere and he just flies off of this wheelchair. I mean, this guy had a rough time. Not only that, like he gets cut by the hitchhiker. He's getting third wheeled by his sister. I mean, this guy
Yeah,
is just
that's the thing
pitiful.
though, is he plays Sally's brother.
Right?
So
Yeah.
I mean, if you I mean you got to understand that if he wasn't her brother, he probably wouldn't be on that trip with them.
Oh no, not so. He's kind of like he's pathetic. Like there's
Yeah,
not
you
much.
can kind of tell they don't want him there.
Yeah, like, and it's funny because that is not real. That's real acting right there, man. Those guys really didn't like Paul Pertain. He he's a method actor basically, right? So he was in character the entirety of this shoot. Whenever he was on location filming, he was in character in that wheelchair, being a whiny, punky little bitch the whole time. I mean,
Right,
like Gunnar Hansen said that he hated the guy, and he didn't realize until way later that he was like a method actor, and then they became friends later on. But like
right,
he really like sunk into that character, and you
right,
can really tell like it's a fully fleshed out like annoying ass character, and you're just waiting for him to get it right.
right.
And honestly, it doesn't take long for the kills to start happening in this movie, right? So they pick up the hitchhiker and they kick him out. They kick him to the curb. They stop by the old gas station where you meet old Jim Seedow. There, he's out there uh, saying he's got no gas. There ain't no gas coming for a week. So these guys are out in the middle of Texas with no gas and just trying to get to the old farmhouse, right? And they get out to the farmhouse and basically what happens is what are they looking for? Like a swimming hole?
Yeah, are you talking about?
Like after they go to that farmhouse and they're like, oh, we're
Yeah,
gonna go out to the swimming hole out back, right?
right. Yeah,
So
you're
they
talking
go,
about Pam and her boyfriend. They go look
yeah,
for a place
Pam
to.
and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
what's his name? I
It's
believe his name is
Kirk.
like
Is it
Kirk.
Kirk?
Yeah, is
Yeah,
it
yeah.
Kirk or Jerry? It's one of those
Yeah,
guys,
it's either
Kirk
it's
or
either Kirk or
Jerry.
Jerry. Yeah.
And basically, they go out to this swimming hole, and it's dry. But they notice uh, what is it? The house, a big old house in the back, just
Yeah,
out in the
the
middle of
Sawyer
nowhere.
house. Yeah.
Yeah, the old Sawyer house. Well, I guess they don't have their names yet, but they're later called Sawyer, so it doesn't
Right,
matter.
right,
Let's just call them what they are. Right? So they're like, hey, you know what we could do is we can go knock on the door, maybe give them some money and get some gas. Right? And then this movie follows a bunch of kids breaking and entering this poor family's house. They just knock on the door. They knock on the door, no one answers, and they just walk in. Like who does that?
especially like a hillbilly farmhouse in the middle of
I
nowhere.
mean, the thing
Like,
about the
that's an
farmhouse
example
is
of
that
one of the
it's not
things I
that
would
bad,
not
like,
have
on
done.
the outside. The house doesn't look that bad on the outside, right? But as
Right.
soon as you step inside the house, that's when things, like, get really weird, right? So, I believe, like, what's her name? Pam is just sitting on, like a chair outside, and I think it's Jerry is the first one, right? And Jerry
I
walks
think so.
in, and he's just yelling. He just walks in the house. Just nobody's there. He just walks in the house, and he sees
Yeah, it's Jerry. It's Jerry. That's who it
it's
was.
Jerry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So he walks in this house, and he uh he starts hearing like pig squeals, dude. Like if you're in a house and you don't hear nobody, but you start hearing pig squeals, would you like follow that sound? Like what the fuck is going through this guy's head, right?
And he doesn't even know for sure that it's pig squeals.
Like yeah, the dude's
It could
just
be
hearing a
something even
weird
more
ass noise.
sadistic, you know?
So
Like,
he
who
starts
knows?
following this noise deeper in the house, and then we finally get our like first iconic shot of Leatherface. He comes around the corner, and it does a hard cut close to him, and you see him just get bonked on the head
Yeah,
with a
raises his
sledge,
hammer up.
dude.
Yeah.
Straight up sledgehammer, man. Just
Body
comes
twitching
down.
on the floor.
Yeah, comes down hard, and those sledges, sometimes you gotta hit them once or twice to get them to go down. So he hits them like 2 or 3 times and slams the door. Right, poor dude's stroking out on the floor, and that's our first kill in this movie. And I think this is one of like the most iconic kills, other than who would you say who's another big one? I'd say Franklin at the end is
Yeah,
pretty big
Franklin,
too.
whenever he kills him in the wheelchair, that's a big one.
Yeah. So basically, we our first guy is getting pretty much pulled into the basement at this point, and then we get one of the most iconic shots of the movie, and this shot is replicated in every single Texas Chainsaw. It's like the low panning dolly shot that follows like the super hot supermodel's butt as
Oh,
they're
yeah, yeah,
walking
yeah.
closer to the yeah. So apparently she hates this shot, but like later on she's like, oh, it's iconic, I love it now. She was originally, she said she hated this shot, but it's become iconic and synonymous with this whole franchise. So she goes inside of the house, right? And at this point, she's looking around, and she like legit like she just face plants into the living room that's full of like corpse art, right? Corpse art and chicken bones and all these dead animals. And these are real dead animals that they found on the side of the road. Like they had a team of guys running up and down the roads of like middle of nowhere Gunner, Texas, to grab all of these dead animals that they could use for the shot. So this shit smelled terrible, right?
Right.
And she's just sitting in there for a longer than usual uncomfortable time, right? Like she's just like looking around trying to like process what the hell she's walked into. And then Leatherface comes out and chases her, right? She takes off out the front door, if I remember correctly, right?
Are you talking about Pam?
Pam, yeah, Pam, her.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then he runs and grabs her,
Oh
and
yeah,
then
yeah,
he takes her in and puts her on the hook.
yeah. And again,
And
this is
then and
not
then and
showing
then in
anything. They
in
just show you
comes
just enough.
in comes the terrible acting. You get
Yeah,
put on
right.
a meat hook, and she's just like, ah,
I don't think it's that
ow,
bad of a shot, honestly.
uh.
I think it's a good shot how they do it.
No, the
I like
shot's
to
good.
imagine
I'm
like
saying
it.
her acting was pretty bad.
Well, I like to think that it like went through a lung or something. A collapsed lung. You're not going to be screaming. You're going to be like gasping for air, not making a lot of noise. So I think it's believable. But if you want to think that it's bad, different strokes for different folks. But soon after that, doesn't That's right. Yeah. So after that scene, they head her up on the hook, and then he starts chopping up her boyfriend right in front of him.
Yes,
Right?
that's when he starts like cutting at his head or cutting his head off. We're just left guessing. But that's
Yeah. Right.
pretty much what he's doing.
Yeah. Again, this is not showing a lot of gore at this moment. There's not even blood splatter yet. Like she's hooked up on a hook. This guy's getting chopped up with a chainsaw. You don't really see a lot. So I they they really got screwed with the rating, if you ask me. But as of
Right.
1970, this is like the first time anyone's seen anything like this.
Yeah. But I mean, it's that's the whole thing. It's ahead of its time because
Right.
it comes out and it's no one's ever done something like that before.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so basically, we're just watching these teenagers one by one show up inside of this house, right? So like the first two kids, they take off, they get killed.
Right.
And then the third guy, he's wondering where the hell the first two went. So he goes the same place. He literally just follows them all the way up to the house, does the exact same thing, walks right through the front door, and gets got. Right? He makes it into the kitchen and actually finds Pam in the freezer. Right? She pops
Yep.
out of the freezer, and then Leatherface comes in again with the
Bop. Bops him on the head.
fucking bonks him on the head. Right? So there's 3 down, and we're already like this point. Leatherface is just wondering where the hell are these kids coming from? They just keep showing up.
He goes and looks out the window.
He's like looking out the window like a fucking like a goddamn like a mime, man. He's just where are these kids coming from?
And
Sits
then
down and he's like pondering it, and he's licking his teeth.
yeah, that's one of my favorite scenes. It like zooms in on his face. He's breathing all heavy, licking his teeth.
Licking his teeth, licking his gums. Just
it's like he's really concentrating,
really trying to figure out where these kids came from.
Using all 5 of his brain cells. Like, what the fuck is going on? And then, finally, it's nighttime now.
Right? So it's been like 6 hours. These people have not come back. Like, at this point, you'd be like, all right, something's going on.
Sally and Frank are like, okay, we got to go find these people.
Well, there's not much going anywhere for Franklin. The dude's in a wheelchair, right? They went through the woods. They went down up and down creeks and shit. Franklin ain't going nowhere, bro.
And then, of course, they end up going because she was going to go anyway without him.
Sally's like, well, I'm going to go, so let's just go through the deep, like, sticks with a wheelchair pushing a fat guy through the woods, man. Like, what the hell is going on with these guys? They make wrong decision after wrong decision.
And then finally, they get there, and Franklin just gets
in the
got.
woods, and he's like, wait, Sally, I think I hear something. And then all of a sudden, Leatherface just comes out of nowhere and starts, like, gutting him with this chainsaw. And God, dude, did I cheer.
And of course, they didn't even show anything. It was just from behind Franklin shot, and you just assuming what's happening.
It's kind of comically, like, not like it's kind of funny.
I'm pretty sure isn't he just like flailing his arms around Franklin?
It's like a shot from behind of Franklin, and you see Leatherface kind of like fake pushing the chainsaw towards him. Like it's obvious that it's nowhere near him, but he's flailing, going.
Oh, it's great.
Oh my god! And then at that point we start one of the first chainsaw chase scenes, right? So this is like where Sally begins like a 5-minute chase scene,
right?
Where she makes the dumbest decisions again.
Well, I mean, and this whole chase, it leads me into something else I want to talk about. Is in comparison to more modern horror movies, is I feel like there's a lot of moments in this old movie, which it's from 1974, so you got to give it a little bit of leeway. But there's lots of filler moments that feel really dull, and this is one of them. This chase is so long.
This part is so funny, man.
This chase, it's funny because it's so long, and they're just like running through a bunch of bushes.
Dude, the way
and he's cutting his way through bushes. And they end up going in a fucking circle, and she just runs back into the house.
Way she runs with like her hands like sticking straight up and going. She's like waving her hands over her head, running through the woods. She goes inside of the cannibal house. Now, give her, she's never seen this house. She has no idea this is the bad house, right? She runs through the house. Now, not to go. She makes the first decision that I think is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. She locks the front door, right? Does she lock the front door? I know she closes the front door. But she goes.
I don't know if she locks it.
I have no
Which
idea. If she locks it.
I hope that she didn't, because
That makes this next part so funny.
Leatherface comes up and he cuts the door open
Yeah,
very,
he starts
very haphazardly. Like, he
just
does not
starts.
do it. He doesn't do it, intricately at all. He just cuts this door the fuck
Hey,
up.
the door's in my way. I can't turn the handle. I'll just put it down. I swear to God, I don't think she locked it. I think she just shut the door and he was just like, cut it down, cut it down,
Cut it down.
cut it down. But yeah, she runs upstairs. She goes to
Yeah,
the
of
attic.
all places.
Of all places in this house to hide, she goes upstairs into the attic where there's only one staircase that leads up and down, right? So she's already like immediately trapped herself in this house. And she goes upstairs and she sees what she thinks is two corpses, right? You see a corpse of like an old lady.
Well,
and then
one is definitely a corpse.
yeah, one
The
definitely is a
grandma.
corpse. And one later on you come to find out is grandpa, but he pretty much is a corpse. Like, he's not
He
reacting
might
to
as well
Sally.
be. Yeah.
He's just there, right? And I'm pretty sure at this point, this is where Sally jumps out of the window, right? She like dives out of the window, if I remember correctly. And then she dives out of the window. Leatherface runs back down the stairs, and they begin another like leg of this chase. So now she's running from the house back through the woods to what is like the gas station.
Well, what's funny, that's funny too, is that she had to jump out that window up top because she so stupidly ran up into the attic.
Yeah, I know.
And then
right?
that's the only place she had to go from that point.
Didn't check the kitchen. Didn't
jump
look for
out
a back
the window.
door. Didn't look for a back door. Just dove out the window. Hey, man, props to her. She is one tough chick. But she takes off, right? She takes off and she ends up running over to
the gas station.
The gas station that they went to earlier, right? And at this
she
point,
she tries to get help from the cook, not knowing that he's part of the family.
Front door, and he's like, "It's okay, don't worry. I'll go get my truck. You just stay here, right?" And at this point, he walks out and leaves. You don't hear the chainsaw. You don't know what's going on. It's kind of like a fake out moment where you're like, "Oh no, is this dude gonna come back, or is he gonna get killed by the chainsaw guy?" Right? And it leaves on this like long shot of the barbecue that's cooking inside of the gas station, right? And you're just starting to get these like subtle hints of like something's off, something ain't right. Like the barbecue even kind of looks gross. It doesn't even look yummy, right? You're like, I like me some barbecue, but like looking at this in the movie, I'm kind of disgusts me a little bit. But anyways, the long moments go by. She's sitting in there waiting, and then you see old Cook come back through the door with a giant potato sack and a rope, like smiling like a creep, dude. Oh my God!
Get in this tater sack,
yeah, come over here, come here, you little son of a bitch! They fight in the old gas station, and I think he beats her with, what does he beat her with? Like a broom handle?
It's a broom handle, yeah.
Just beats the crap out of her with a broom handle. Poor girl. I mean, this girl's already been through the ringer, but now she's got a potato sack on her. She's got beat up with a broom handle, and he takes her and puts her in the truck. And he's like, "All right, well, I'm gonna drive you back home. Now, I'm not really one who likes to torture anyone or kill. I'm just gonna take you back to the farmhouse, right?" And this dude's got her in the floorboard of his truck, and he's just like jabbing her with this broom handle, like a little like evilly, like he's just, what is he's a little sadistic. He just likes he's just fucking with her the whole movie. Like, can you imagine like what this girl's like going through?
And then they're just tormenting her at the dinner table later.
Right. So yeah, they get her home. The hitchhiker shows up, right? And they all like
and she freaks out. She freaks out. This is the first time her seeing him since the van.
Yeah, he recognizes her too.
Yeah, and then she's just like, "Oh no, this guy too," and she just freaks out.
Yeah, at this point we're seeing different Leatherface is dressed up in a different outfit. He's dressed up like a grandma. He's doing dishes in the background, working in the kitchen, and you see
and they really try to focus on zooming in on her face a lot and her wide eyes, just
yeah.
to show how terrified she is.
Dude, one of
They
my
really
favorite
emphasize
lines.
that.
One of my favorite lines in this movie happens right when he gets home and he takes her and he sees the house and he sees the front door that Leatherface fucking chops up. He's like, "I want your brother in the door." And he's so fucking pissed. He starts beating up Leatherface with a broom
He
handle.
starts hitting Leatherface.
Dude, it's one. It's
You
like this
idiot!
is
You idiot! And then
you
he goes.
damn
He
idiot.
asks
You
him.
don't
He
know
asks him
shit.
if he let anyone else get away, and he's
Yeah.
explaining that one's in the freezer. He's
Yeah,
like, "Oh
Leatherface. Yeah, Leatherface isn't even speaking English. He's just like he's like doing like barks and shit, like what you would think a human would sound like. Like the guy is like got nothing under that mask. Man.
he's
He's
full tism
yeah, bro, full Simple Jack. He's full Simple Jack right
for
there.
sure.
And at this point, we got the lady tied up, right? And this is like the most iconic scene in the movie, the dinner scene, the so-called dinner scene, right?
And
And
and whenever they cut her finger to feed Grandpa blood, because that's the only
right,
way they can really even feed him anymore, is because he's so old.
he's on that
He
all
just
liquid
he just
diet.
he just drinks blood,
So
and
they cut her finger, right, and they stick it in the
and
grandpa's
they
mouth.
actually cut her finger too. The
Yeah,
actress,
right.
she got her finger cut.
So
That's wild.
this whole scene was like torture. This is like the scene that they famously talk about, like is like the worst part of
It
this.
wasn't just torture for her in the movie; it was torture for the whole cast filming.
Like yeah, to film this, right? So it was like a 19-year-old kid who plays the grandpa, right? And it took him 9 hours.
Obviously in
Yeah,
makeup, yeah.
it took him 9 hours to put on the makeup that they were doing for this scene. And basically, he told the director, he's like, "Look, I'm not going to do multiple like nights doing this, so we're going to have to film this in one go." So they spent 20. They now the number's different. Everybody gives a different number, but basically they spent up to 27 hours filming straight to get this scene to happen in 115-degree heat in Texas, right? So all of the meat
Right.
in this movie is real. All of the meat is there. It's rotting. It's cooking in the heat that's happening. The house smells like rotten mink.
And
Sounds like
then
rotten meat, and it's
yeah,
rancid. And people are like taking
and
breaks to go outside and throw up in the yard. It got
for
that bad.
continuity reasons, they all left their same clothes on without washing them,
Yeah,
right?
they went a whole month without washing their clothes so they can keep the continuity of
Right. So you got this
what they were
Texas
shooting.
heat, real rotting meat. No one's bathed in a month.
Yeah, everybody hates each other, and people are actually getting their fingers cut.
Right.
People are actually getting cut up in this movie.
It was
Like it
a
is brutal.
wild
Like
movie.
if this shit went on today, there would be lawsuits out the
Oh,
wazoo.
so many losses.
Like
They
it's
probably would have got
insane.
the whole production shut down, to be honest.
Right? Yeah, but this is like one of my favorite shots of the movie, right? Because this is where it like starts to get really like crazy with like all of the cinematography and stuff. We're getting like crazy jump cuts, really close up on the eyeball. People are screaming, hooting, and hollering. It's really like showing the mania that this girl has gone through over the night. So this is like where the movie gets a little like dark comedy, right? So they pull out Grandpa and they give Grandpa like a sledgehammer, and they're holding this girl over a bucket, and they're trying to get this supposedly 124-year-old corpse to bash her over the fucking head with this sledgehammer, right? And he's so weak he can't even hold it.
It's basically a Leatherface swinging the hammer, but
Yeah, and
it's in the old man's hand.
yeah, it's like ridiculous. He drops it over and over. And anyways, this like creates the moment where I don't know how this happens, but she just like legit just like stands up. She just stands up and is like, "Fuck this, I'm out," and jumps through another window. Ladies and gentlemen, this lady jumped through 2 windows in this movie, okay? We got to give her a hand here. Like, come on. That's dedication right there. So she dives out of this window, and this is where we get to see this iconic shot of her running down the long driveway, right?
And
She's running down the
he's
driveway.
slashing at her. You know, the
The,
hitchhiker. He's slashing
the
at her.
hitchhiker's after her. Leatherface
Leatherface is
is in
behind him.
tow. Yeah, he's farther behind, but the hitchhiker's on her shit. She makes it out the front door. This is like the funny part. Is like he's right on her shit. He's in the road, and a semi truck runs this motherfucker over, turns him into fucking roadkill on the side of the road. Just jello, practically. And she's running away. She's covered in blood at this point, screaming bloody murder with a chainsaw wielding madman right behind him. And this truck driver decides to pull her up in the truck, and for some reason they decide to get out of the passenger side and try to run away on foot.
That part definitely confuses me because they both are safely in the truck now. He
Yeah,
could
he
just
took off.
pull away, but no, they get back out again on the other side of the truck.
Right, so he grabs like a monkey wrench and they take off the other way. Leatherface is right behind him, and this dude does like he just turns around and just fastballs a fucking monkey wrench right in Leatherface's face, dude. He just gets cracked and he falls over and cuts his leg with a chainsaw, right? And it's
then
gross. It
by
shows a little meat.
miracle, another truck comes by.
Yeah,
that
another
she can
truck
just hop
comes by,
into.
and she jumps into the back of this truck, and we never see this truck driver again. Like he just runs off screen.
Yeah, he was the smartest one in the movie. He just runs down the
Off screen.
highway, runs away. He leaves.
Yeah, well, he could have got back in his truck too. I just don't
Yeah,
get it. He just
that's true.
disappears. He just disappears.
I was saying he's the smartest in the movie. I'm not saying he's smart.
Oh yeah, for sure. But yeah, so she jumps in the back of this truck, and then that's when we see her, like, she goes from like crying to laughing maniacally. Right? She's like happy
And then
that
we
it's
get
over.
the famous Leatherface chainsaw dance.
Oh yeah, man, this thing has been recreated in almost every Texas Chainsaw after this. So apparently this is like all not scripted. Gunnar Hansen just did this off of the rip. He had no plan for what he was doing. He just started swinging it like it was
like he's mad.
Yeah, like he's mad. He's doing a little dance. It's
like
cool.
it's like he's throwing a hissy fit because
he got away. He's gonna get caught. That the family's gonna get caught. Of maybe who knows? The catch line for this movie was who will survive and what will be left of them, right? So maybe she just like completely went insane. We don't really know what happens to Sally after this.
Right.
She just drives away, and then we get that chainsaw dance into a hard cut. And geez, was this movie good?
For its time, I'd say it's good, but like
I think it still holds up.
I mean, comparatively to modern horrors, like I said earlier, I think it has lots of filler moments where it's like it just feels kind of dull. Nothing happening at all. Someone just like walking.
Yeah, like the scene
or like
where
when Franklin was just wheelchairing through the house. They're just doing nothing.
I mean, there are a lot of like random raspberries in this.
Yeah,
movie.
it just doesn't feel quite as thrilling as a modern horror, other than the dinner scene and on. The point for where the dinner scene starts until the very end, the Leatherface dance.
Honestly,
I think all that holds up to modern horrors, but
I think this stuff still holds up. I mean, it's gritty. It feels real. The camera angles, the shots of this movie are like surprisingly actually kind of beautiful. Like he plays with a lot of natural light in this movie. It's really well shot. It's a film student's like dream to watch this movie. Like a lot of film studies have been going on in this movie. It's really iconic.
Another thing I could say could have been a lot better would be the score of the movie. I mean, there really isn't a score at all.
No, it's just
silence. Yeah, it's just like silence or
yeah, it's like industrial sounds, like pots and pans and like power tools and shit. Really, it doesn't really have like an actual score, like a Nightmare on Elm Street or like Friday the 13th. They have like iconic music, but this one's more of like a industrial sound. You don't really you're not there to watch the music. It gives it that gritty feeling too.
Right.
And this movie was filmed for about $140K which is like in today's money, that's like making a movie for less than $1 million. So it was really low budget. So they really had to work with what they had, and it grossed over $30 million domestic box office. So this was a huge success. This movie was fucking big. The only problem about this movie is it got banned in a lot of different countries, like 18 different countries: Brazil, Canada, Great Britain, Australia. Like they did not have the opportunity to watch this film until like the late 80s, early 90s, and it was because the movie was too gory and they didn't want people grabbing chainsaws and going crazy, so they banned the movie all over the place. So we really have no idea how big this movie could have been if it was showing all over the world.
So all in all, score-wise, we're going to score it. Which
I'm giving this movie, are we doing it out of 10 or are we doing it out of 5?
Which for the audience, we're going to do this for every game, show, movie that we do.
Lag score.
Yes. So we're going to rate it on sound, which includes, music score, anything like that, just general all sound of the movie, audio. We're going to rate it on performance, from the actors. And then the third thing we're going to rate is the overall,
1 out of 10.
Yeah, how good the movie was, like how well it was shot, and just your opinion on
honestly,
how
I
good
think
it was.
We should just go with a 1 out of 10, and then
So I would say overall, just enjoyment of the movie, and I'm considering that it was made in 1974. It's obviously not going to be as crazy as a modern horror.
Mm-hmm.
And as the first of its kind of its time, So I would give it.
This is the granddaddy.
I would give it probably an 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10. See, I'm a slut for this movie.
There's only one reason I'm knocking it down to an 8 instead of like a 9 or a 10, and I would say is because I want more, like Leatherface scenes.
Yeah, he was only in this movie for like.
He doesn't have much.
He doesn't have a lot of screen time in this movie, even though he's like the lead. He's like the main like villain in this movie.
Right.
He's not in it a lot, but I honestly, that's kind of the appeal to it as well. You don't want to overshow.
And then the other point I knocked off, which brings it down to an 8 instead of a 9, would be because of the audio. Like if I had to rate the audio, like the score, there's no music sounds really at all, other than the natural sounds they're making on set.
And all that.
I would give, if I had to rate the sound audio out of 10, I'd give it like a fucking 2 or a 3. Like,
bam.
Yeah.
Really? Well, I'm just going to tell
overall
you right
score,
now,
that's why I give it an 8.
Well, my friend, I am a slut for this movie. Okay, I've seen this movie up and down maybe like 15 times. And I overlook all that crap. It doesn't matter. This movie has like special significance in my
but you got to give it your
unbiased. My unbiased movie opinion, 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10.
But biased opinion, you give it a 10.
Biased opinion, perfect movie. Perfect movie. They have not been able to recreate the Texas Chainsaw Massacre successfully since this movie.
Well, the Jessica Biel one was pretty good.
All of the sequels do not compare. I mean, they go a lot harder in the Jessica Biel ones. I like those; those are good ones. But this, they caught lightning in a bottle with this movie, in my opinion. Like this movie was just it blew everything out of the water before this. There was nothing horror wise that was close to what this was.
And I said I
give it a 9 out of 10. And I would
said
definitely
I would
recommend this.
I said I would give it an 8 out of 10, and that's not comparing it to modern horrors. Me giving it
film.
Yeah, me understanding that it's from 1974, I'd give it the 8. But if I'm comparing it to a modern horror movie, stuff that I think is more thrilling, and higher budget, I would give this movie like a 4.
Holy shit, dude! Shut the fuck up! Jesus Christ! I want to slap the shit out of you right now. How dare you say that?
But
A
for
first,
its time, it definitely gets an 8.
it's a 9 out of 10. It would be a 10 out of 10.
Hey, I said for its time, I'd give it an 8.
I think you're crazy, dude. We'll
That's
see. The
only. That's
audience is
only.
gonna. The
No,
audience will
that's
let us know, man. For
here.
real, they'll say. I say 9 out of 10. I would recommend this movie as like a first time horror movie too. Like if you have got like
Well,
a
like I
10-year
said,
old
me.
or up, they could watch this movie. There's nothing really crazy out of it. It's not like gonna ruin a person's childhood if you see this movie. I would recommend this movie for like first time horror fans,
Well, like
to
I
be
said,
honest.
me considering the time it was made, I'd give it an 8. That's only
And
1 point less than you gave it. Your unbiased opinion.
yeah, an eight,
So,
an eight, and a 9. I think those are fair scores. I would say that this movie inspired countless filmmakers. We're talking like John Carpenter, Sam Raimi,
well,
definitely Rob Zombie.
another
Rob
another
Zombie is like
thing,
really inspired by this stuff.
another thing we need to touch on is
As the other
is
forms
the
of
game.
media that this had, right? The
The
game.
game. Very recently came out this
Yeah,
year.
it came out in August.
It very closely goes based off the original '74 movie. You know, it has the hitchhiker, the cook, the grandpa, all very similar looking as well.
Yeah, and they got a
Same
couple other
house.
characters as well too. They
Yeah,
added a little original stuff, but like the uh the attention to detail on the maps is insane.
right.
Like you legit once you walk if you watch this movie and then go play the game and you get to play on the farmhouse, it is like verbatim like pulled straight from the movie. It's insane how accurate this house is and like everything in this
Other than
movie.
the basement, because you don't get to see that in the
Yeah,
movie.
you don't get to see the basement in the actual movie, but in the game, like I mean, you get a basement, a second floor level. There's 3 different maps, and it's an asymmetrical horror, kind of like in the style of like Dead by Daylight or like Friday the 13th, the game. So like it's killers versus survivors. You start off in the
Right.
basement. You got to do some menial tasks to unlock the exits and get out, right? And
Right.
highly multiplayer. I enjoy it. I have a lot of fun. I prefer playing as the killer. I know you like playing as the survivor, right? That's a lot of
Right.
fun.
I like playing as the survivors mainly because I feel like there's more objectives to do
Oh yeah, for
versus
sure.
with the family, you kind of just
Run the same
you know
loop, do the
you
same
just kill them.
patrol routes.
Your goal is to kill them. Go up and
Yeah, lock the place down.
go up to them and press the slash button. You know, like that's
Yeah,
all
well,
you got to do.
there's a little more to it than that. There's some
Well,
routes you
yeah,
got to learn, and
you
like
got to feed the
where to
grandpa, but
where to put traps, where's the best place to hide out.
it's very basic compared to what you have to do for a survivor. You know,
Oh
and
yeah, the survivor. There's options for sure. There's like 4 different exits that you can leave out
while
of.
I think more challenging side of the victims is more fun, I do have to say that the game's a little unbalanced in my opinion. The fact that it's a lot harder to win as a victim, and that's because they have to do so much more thing.
Yeah, I
And
mean, they're still like figuring out the balance thing. I'm sure
right,
that they're going to be
I
working on
think
this game for a long time. It's pretty popular right now. I mean, it's popping still.
I think they could
Uh,
do two things potentially to balance it. Uh, is maybe give the survivors better perks in their little perk tree,
hmm
or they could, you know, give them less difficult objectives to do, or maybe like a map that's more beneficial to the victim.
Maybe
And
I honestly I like the challenge. Right, you can't make it too easier. The game is like
well,
then
no,
the game like
no,
that's the thing
I'm
about
not saying to make it
asymmetrics.
too easy. I'm just saying to make it a little easier for survivors because it does, like I said, the more challenging aspect of the survivor is what makes it more fun to me.
Uh huh.
But I think it's a little too much more challenging. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
like
well,
I feel like I can't win most of the time. You know.
well, we are still, you are still pretty low level. Once you get to the higher levels and you get get the skill trees and you learn the map, it becomes a lot easier. But I do agree that they do need to work on the balancing. They need to start rolling out some new DLC, all right?
But
Because there's only
yeah, the
three
game is new.
maps. There's
Game
only
is
a
new.
couple.
So.
There's only a couple characters. They need to start uploading the new stuff as well. I want to see a new map. I want to see some new killers and some new perks and stuff, right? They got to start
Right.
rolling that stuff out if they want to compete with Dead by Daylight. But so far, it's a good game. I mean, like on par with Friday the 13th. Definitely better in my opinion than Friday the 13th. I do love Friday the 13th. It's really
Right.
good. But they got something here. It's close. It's
Right.
paying homage to the original. And gee, I wish they would get the rights to like Texas Chainsaw 2 so we can get like Chop Top and some of the other guys. But I enjoy this game. I really like it. As a fan of the series, I smile when I play it. I hear it and I play the game and it feels good. It makes me feel like I'm watching Texas Chainsaw. So,
And another thing I think they could definitely work on to make playing as a survivor more fun
what?
is the camera angles.
Mhm.
Like, I feel like you can't really see much, especially when you're in a room, or else like when you're in the basement, for example. Like
Mhm.
you can't really pan around and look very well because you're so zoomed in on your character.
But isn't
Um,
that like part of like the scariness of it? Like you're having a limited camera view. It makes it a little bit more uh,
right, but I feel like
immersive.
it's already pretty challenging for the survivor. You know what I mean? I think
Okay.
just the audio enough is scare factor. You hear the chainsaw and getting closer, and your screen starts flashing when a killer's close to you. Like
Yeah.
you don't need the bad camera angles. That
Right.
just makes it harder to play.
So, would you recommend this game?
Overall, I would definitely recommend it because I mean, even with its flaws, I think the game will just get better because it is pretty new.
Yeah, I don't think
Um,
you're gonna be
and I
spending.
think I think they'll make the correct adjustments to make the game better. So I would recommend it. I think it's still fun, even the way it is now.
Yeah.
Uh, I would probably give the game out of 10, probably at least an 8, possibly a 9. I'd probably give the game a
Wow.
9.
A 9.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Damn, that's pretty tough. I don't think it would be that high, but I do recommend this game. I think it's a fun party game. I think if you got like a couple buddies, you go out, go drinking, play some Texas Chainsaw, talk a little shit in the lobby. That's my favorite part of that is just, the
Right.
open lobbies. You can talk crap, a little fun like in before the game. I would recommend this game. It's on Game Pass, so if you have Game Pass, check it out. Uh it's completely cross-play, so PlayStation, Xbox, PC, they're all
Hmm.
working together on this. If I would recommend it, I wouldn't give it a 9. I wouldn't give it a 9. They got a lot of
Well,
bugs, they
I
got a lot
think
of stuff
there's
to work on. I think I would give this game like a 7. A 7.
well, I
It's
would
got room
I would
to grow.
softly agree with your 7 because I think the reason I give it a 9 is because I know the game's newer and they will
Mhm.
make it better and make it more balanced. Uh,
Yeah. The only issue I have is like what other like there's
and
no other game modes, right? There's no
right,
other
another reason why I think I rated a 9 is because I don't really have anything to compare it to. Like for example,
like Dead by
so,
Daylight or
some would
Friday.
argue the superior Dead by Daylight.
Mhm.
It, I've never played Dead by Daylight, so I mean,
Oh, I have, and
if
trust
I
me.
if I've played Dead by Daylight, I might not think Texas Chainsaw is as good because like I would think Dead by Daylight so much better.
Well,
So
the Dead by Daylight kids are definitely in this game trolling. Trust me, I've ran into a couple of them. I tell them to
right,
get back on DBD because that's all they play, those little parasites. But that's bias on me right there. I'm
right.
not a big fan of the community of DBD. They're pretty crazy. But
See, I would say I agree with your 7 though, and if they
it's 7. It's good.
if they rebalance the game, that's when I would give it the 9. Which
Yeah, it's
I'm sure they will. I was just keeping that in mind that it's a newer
a
game,
story
so
mode would be cool.
that would
some
be cool.
single player stuff. Like maybe like Leatherface has got like a missions or something to do. Like there's only one game mode, right? And it's only online, so it's not like
It'd be cool if they had a separate campaign as a victim and as the family.
Yeah, for sure. That would be like they need to add the single player content as well. I know their focus it's completely online right now, but like there needs to be a little bit more. There's only one game mode and there's only 3 maps. So they got to start working on expanding the content or people are going to get, people are just going to toss it away.
Right.
Move on to the next thing.
We are closing in on an hour, so we will probably cut the episode here and hopefully
come check us out next week. We're talking One Piece, the TV show, right?
Yep. Yeah, that's what we're planning on doing for episode 2. I mean, you guys will see what all 5 episodes are right off the rip. So I mean,
yeah, episode
they're all
2,
coming out at
baby.
once.
One Piece, searching for the One Piece. I want to be a pirate, yo ho.
So overall, we both agree the game is probably a 7 for
7.
TCM.
Yep, I would recommend it if you like the franchise. Definitely check it out. They do pay homage to the franchise.
And we got an 8 and a 9 for the movie. Those are pretty good ratings.
Right, so let's get that little Texas Chainsaw flash ready. Here it comes.
And also remember that, like I said before at the beginning of the episode, we got their email and Discord, which we will...
check us out on Discord. Check us out on our email, actionlag@gmail, and check us out on TikTok on actionlag podcast.
Yeah, and I will include the email and Discord links and all links for the TikTok and all that in the descriptions of everything that I can. So, yeah, feel free to join us on that, and we'll see you all in episode 2. Hopefully 3, 4, and 5 as well.
Bye!
Peace.